Reach Over Culture Podcast, episode 15. We are back. Actually back with a season 2. First season was great. Season 2 is about to be a little bit better because we starting off with a bang.
Absolutely.
A lot of different things going on in the culture today. A lot of different things. People want to talk about trade deadlines, walls, government shutdowns. But let's talk about the music.
Okay.
Let's talk about the music today. The Grammys just happened. I don't know if y'all watched it, how I watched it. But one of the things I like to pay attention to is Best Rap Album.
Okay.
You had J-Rock with Redemption, Nipsey, Victory Lap, Travis, Astro World. It was somebody else. But the point is, who won? Invasion of Privacy, Cardi B. Now, I'm not knocking Cardi. But you know what the Grammys showed me? It's not about who make the best music. It's about who's popping. And I don't know how your 2019 is starting off, but if you're in a depression, if you're in a space where you can't create, if you're in a space that you're really just trying to figure out how this life works, do not fear. New music is coming. Music is on the way. Especially if you in the town, music is on the way. I got one of the town's up and coming artists right here, right now, season 2, episode 15 of the Reach Over Culture Podcast. Let's make some noise for my dog, MC. Let's make some noise. Yeah. How you feeling, man? How you feeling?
I feel good.
Tape dropping.
Tape is coming in, what's today, Tuesday? So 2 days. Yeah. Really like one day because it's coming out like midnight. Right. So it's like tomorrow night that junk coming out. So I feel good. I feel chill.
Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day.
Okay, we'll get into that. So I've been knowing you for a little while.
Right.
A long while now. Pretty much just as long as I've known P. Shout out to the 4-5.
Shout out to 45. Shout out to P.
We're gonna get those constant drops.
Absolutely.
Shake my hands.
Thank you. You doing that?
When did this music journey start for you? If you can just give us a brief, like when you actually started to fall in love with the music, and when you did, who was your biggest inspirations at that time?
I started making music like around 2003, 2004. So I was like 8 or 9, something like that around that time. And I started making music. I started rapping after 8 Mile came out. So when 8 Mile came out, we all, like everybody in my school, you know what I'm saying, went to go see it in theater. So then we came back to school that next Monday, everybody was freestyling. You know what I'm saying? Like at the lunch table, you know, the big foldy joints that you open up and it's like chairs on each side with beating with the pencils and stuff at the lunch table. And I was freestyling, and even at the time, like I was kind of better than like most of the kids in my grade, so I kind of liked it. And later on that day, I went home and my older brother was at the crib, and this is back when they had like the polyphonic ringtones, you know what I'm saying, on the phone, and he had Nas's Ether, like the polyphonic ringtone, so we would just play that like 15-20 second loop like over and over again, and I would just freestyle to it, and we would just go back and forth. And that's when I kind of fell in love with like the idea of just putting words together on the fly. And it wasn't until I saw Diddy's Bad Boys for Life video for the first time that I actually wanted to be a rapper. Like growing up, I didn't have like a strong sense of family. I didn't have dad around, so like my house was kind of broken, and then my family was so separated that I didn't have any like real close like relationships with my family. So seeing all of them in the video, standing on the rooftop, just mobbing out like as a team, I kind of always wanted that. So when I saw that video, I was like, that's what I want to do. And then over time, I felt like it evolved into more of a love for the actual art of making music as opposed to the camaraderie. I feel like kids join gangs for that same reason. Like I joined music for that reason. Like music, I felt like was going to bring me the sense of family and unity and oneness that I kind of always wanted. And then as I got older, probably around high school, when I was a kid, I was a big Lil Wayne fan. Like some of my favorite rappers growing up.
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Houston. So I grew up in Houston, Texas. Shout out to Houston, you know what I'm saying? When I was in Houston, like though Houston rap wasn't really what I was feeling at the time. Like I didn't really like.
So you wasn't into the Mike Jones?
I wasn't into Mike Jones. I wasn't into none of them. I loved UGK. Okay. I really enjoyed UGK when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? And all of, like DJ Screw and like all of those guys. But like, when I was growing up, because I was born in the 90s. So by the time I was old enough to listen to music, right, it was Paul Wall, Chameleonaire, and all of those guys. So I wasn't really a fan of like the Houston kind of rap scene. So
they
a lot of my
movement at the time.
It did. Like it's like 06, 07, like that 05 to like 07. It was really, you know what I'm saying, kind of running. And I wasn't really a fan. Like I appreciated what they did, but I wasn't really a huge fan of like what they was doing all the way. But I liked that they was doing for the city and bringing attention to like, this is really how we were living out there. Like, you know, with the cars and the girls and the jewelry and all that. Like we was really living like that. But to me, I wasn't really ever that kind of guy. So I never wanted to be like them. Right. So I kind of found inspiration in other people. Like Biggie was one of my favorite rappers, even though I didn't get to experience his run. Going back and listening to his records. One of my first favorite rappers was Ludacris. A lot of people don't know that. Ludacris was one of my first favorite rappers. Okay. I love Ja Rule, even still to this day. Like Ja Rule's music.
Ja Rule had a time, man.
Ja Rule was hard. People don't realize how hard Ja Rule really was.
Holla holla. After that, it was a rap.
Ja Rule was hard. Fool. I love Ja Rule, as everybody did. I love 50 Cent. My first favorite rapper, like the first dude that really made me feel like, okay, I want to be a rapper, was Kanye. Like Kanye was my first favorite rapper because to me, I felt like he spoke for kids that were like me, kids who grew up around areas where people were, you know, killing or selling drugs or doing whatever, but who weren't really like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was in it and around it. But I never really felt like that was me. So when I saw Kanye, I'm like, man, at the time, you had 50, you had Luda, you had like all of these guys that were talking about, you know, killing or shooting or trapping or whatever. And then you had this dude come through in like a polo t-shirt, you know what I'm saying, kind of conscious, talking about things.
We're talking
that,
about the old Kanye.
You know what I'm saying? Wow. Like college dropout stuff. Like, and that was the first album the first rap album I'd ever bought with my own money was Late Registration.
Really?
Yeah, I bought Late Registration. I actually kind of halfway stole it from the library. It's back when you used to go to the library and they had like the CDs. You could check them out. So like I checked it out and I just never returned it. And then they charged me $22 and some change for it. And that was the first. That was literally the first CD that I'd ever bought. So Kanye was my first favorite rapper, and he really inspired me to, I don't know, like to talk about something. Because I felt like, because Jay-Z, looking back on it now, like Jay-Z was always, and I know because you're a huge Jay-Z fan, like Jay-Z was always talking like that real talk, you know what I'm saying? But as a kid, I was too young to understand the level of what he was talking about. A lot of us were. But with Kanye, he was speaking it in such a basic and practical way that like we all understood what he was saying because it was so clear. Like we all subconscious, I'm just the first one of many. Like it's like, oh, I feel that. Like I feel like Kanye felt talking about, you know, feeling insecure, or whether you're talking about wanting to be flashy because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or talking about, you know, the art and stuff like that. Like he was the first person that spoke to me as an artist, as a rapper, you know what I'm saying? Not just raps. And I feel like that's why I function in both ways. Like I'm like half artist, like just creative, and like that's why I like to sing, or I want to try all these different things that aren't necessarily rap, but then at the same time, like I have that foundation of like Biggie and like Ludacris and like guys like that who like was just rapping, and that's why like the other half of me is like I gotta make sure I always get my bars off, because it's like I can't let that part of the young fan in me down. Yeah,
that's important. I feel Kanye inspired a lot of the millennial rap artists that you see today, for good or for worse. He's still influencing people, and the fact that, you know, you can take that and take the rap. It's a lot of guys in our generation that are kind of picking one or the other. So for the well-balanced artists, it's hard to find. And when I hear your music, it's different. All right, so we in the town. Right. This episode might as well be called Town Talk, because people weren't actually referring the town to the town as the town. It was T-Town, it was Thug Town, it was 918, but the town. All right, just give me a couple of gems about just coming up with the town and the concept of just repping it as the town.
I never really. I'm not even gonna say that I came up with it.
Okay.
I don't know who I would attribute it to. I just don't like to take it as something that I created because, one, I wasn't born here,
right.
And I don't know. I'm sure there was somebody before me who called Tulsa town, just town. I'm sure, okay. Because I didn't like the way T-town kind of sounded. Like, to me, like growing up in Houston, you hear H-town.
H-town.
So like, to me, the taking the letter and then putting town on it was kind of already there. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I feel like I may have not been the first person to feel that way. Yeah. I'm sure there's people that grew up here for decades who felt that way, who maybe just referred to it as the town. I would like to say that I'm the first person who branded it. Yeah. So I'll probably take the credit in some respects for branding it. And to me, I felt like it was necessary because I felt like we didn't have anything that we could attach ourselves to as a brand that was strong enough. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of created it because I felt like there was a space where people needed to understand that we were one. Like that this was something that was more than just like a person trying to create a clothing line that was going to pop off, like, or a person trying to make a brand so big so that they could get on. Like, to me, I look at hip hop and the scale of it, and hip hop is a regional type of career path. Like, it's a regional sport. Like, every rapper that you can think of is when you think of Biggie, you think of New York. Yeah. When you think of Ludacris, you think of Atlanta. Yeah. When you hear Mike Jones, you think of Houston. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear Rick Ross, you think Florida. Yeah. You hear Tupac, you think LA. You hear Kendrick, you think LA. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So there's not many rappers that have come in this game that are attached to their city, and I feel like that's a big part of a career path as an artist or as a brand of an artist. Is like, what are you representing? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so for you, it's the town. Yeah,
like for me, it's like you have to stand for something that's bigger than yourself. Right. And for me, that's where where I'm from. Like, I wasn't born here, but everything that made me who I am is.
No, I can definitely relate to that. Like, coming here after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, right. But spending my high school years here, pretty much spending all my teenage years here, and most of my adult years here, like, this is like another home. You know, I know a lot more people here than I know back in New Orleans. Yeah. And I can definitely understand feeling like this is home for you. You know what I'm saying? This is home base. And for a lot of people that may not know, just as an artist, a lot of people kind of try to come and go and do it. MC is one of the only people that I've seen stay consistent and be as passionate about pushing Tulsa music as a whole to another level and exposing Tulsa artists. That's why I asked about the town, because I've heard people refer to Harlem as a town and Trenton, New Jersey as a town, but you know, like, town, that's different. That gives Tulsa a totally different identity, and like you said, that can push everything forward. Describe kind of the music scene in Tulsa. Like, you know, you got people like yourself, you know, P, shout out to 4-5 again, Canvas, younger brother Chase and Ryan, for those who don't know, Young Chase. But kind of describe the music scene in Tulsa and the potential for where it can go.
I think that the music scene, I think the music scene in Tulsa is really, I think it's untapped and really kind of unrefined. Like, you have spottiness of people here and there who take it seriously enough to want to be better within themselves, and then you have people who just do it for fun. And I think that there are way more people who don't see themselves making music 10 years from now or making music 5 years from now, who do it just because they love it. And that's beautiful, but there are people who are like that who should see themselves in the same light as people who can actually make a career out of it. And I think that one of Tulsa's biggest problems is that there are people who just don't take themselves seriously enough. And I think that's the goal. Like, the goal is always to make people feel like they can be more than what they think they can be. And I think that Tulsa hasn't had a rich culture of hip-hop history to have seen it work through people. Like, the reason why somebody like Kendrick can be as effective and be so passionate about music from such a young age up until adulthood and take it so seriously was because he stood on the corner and watched Tupac and Dr. J shoot like music videos like as a kid. So he saw the growth and maturation in these artists from a young age in his hometown. Yeah. But in Tulsa, like the closest thing we have in musical success is Charlie Wilson, but that's decades and decades removed from the grind and the struggle and the hustle that the Gap Band had to go through to get to where they get through. And then to me, from what I've heard, like Tulsa kind of shunned them for a while from what I've heard.
Yeah,
this is just what I've been told. So like, it's not like they were even here to build and grow and expand here. So like, we've never really seen it. Yeah. So it's up to us and our generation to set the foundation to show the people like, yo, this can be done, and like people can achieve a certain level of success and greatness while putting on for Tulsa or coming out of Tulsa. So I think that the music scene out here is just untapped because there hasn't been anybody or any group of people to come and carry that torch. There's a lot of people who have come and then left, made a name for themselves, whether it's in Atlanta or in Texas or moved to New York or California, but never came back to put their stamp on it here or that repped it after they left. Like, I don't have an issue with people who leave. I have an issue with people who leave and don't represent. You know what I'm saying? Act like they never came from here. Like, there's people that leave and move to Atlanta and then act like they're from Atlanta. It's like, you're not from Atlanta, bro. Like, you're from Tulsa. You know what I'm saying? So, that's me. Like, I feel like it's just untapped, but it has so many great artists, bro. Like, a lot of people don't even know about a lot of that.
Let's get into the great artists. Mm-hmm. Before we go into the tape, this is going to be my next question. Mm-hmm. Then we'll get into the tape. And the tape is great, by the way.
Thank you.
The 4-5. Mm-hmm. All right, so I asked P about the 4-5. You can go see that in our earlier episodes on Reach Over Culture. Mm-hmm. I asked P about the 4-5. P couldn't really give me a clear description. So I'm going to ask you, what is the 4-5, even for people in the town that may not understand it?
I think P couldn't give you a clear answer because at the time I don't feel like it was that clear. Right. Like, things have changed. A lot of stuff has changed since
that wasn't
in my weakness drop. That was October 2018. Now we're in February 2019, so that's what, almost 6 months, if not 6 months ago. Yeah. I feel like we've having a lot of things more clear. So 45 is a collective of artists and not just rappers, genuine like artists. So there are people who just produce. We have people who rap like me and P. You know, Chase sings. So it's me, Paris as artists. It's me, Paris, Evan, Chase, and Ryan. Evan goes by Canvas, the producer, and then the Conversation. So it's the 5 of us, and
the Conversation is an artist.
Mm-hmm. He writes. He did a lot of writing on Polaroid. He sang the intro on Polaroid on Paris's like 3 albums ago. Yeah. He sang the intro on Polaroid. He helps us write. He's honestly, to me, he's one of the most creative and talented people in the group. Like,
he lives here in Tulsa. Yeah,
he lives in Tulsa. He went to high school at Victory. Him and Canvas are cousins, like blood cousins. So, but yeah, he's very talented. He's actually working on a project too. Okay. So, he's super talented, and we just make music together, man. And then there's other people who shoot, videos or do pictures, like my homie Alan. He, Alan right there. Like, he does. Alan does YouTube videos. Alan does photography. You know what I'm saying? My homie Dylan. He does marketing. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I'm just kind of like forgetting about that runs with us, but like it's just a bunch of us that just JV. He does all of the visuals. He edited the Stuffy video. He does really pretty much all of my visuals. And then you have the homie Reese. He shoots pictures. He shot the cover for the tape. You know what I'm saying? He shot the cover to Paris's album too. So he shot.
Reese in high demand, by the way.
Reese is in super high demand.
If y'all want to get
you know what I'm saying? So like that's 45. Like, it's not a bunch of guys trying to feed off of each other's success because we feel like one person is better than the other. We try to feed off each other's success because we all contribute to everything that we do.
Gotcha.
It's not a team of people who are this group and we come out with records together all the time like a ASAP Mob or an NWA,
right.
but we're also not like super hands off to where you do you, and then we just call ourselves a team because it's easier. Like
right.
Paris's album, we all put our hands in. You know what I'm saying? Chase's album, we all put our hands in.
It's a collective. It's a strong.
It's a collective. It's a very strong collective. And we're family too. Like, and you know, because you've known all of us for a long time. Like, it's family. It's not like it's some.
I was partially put on to the 4-5.
Big 4-5. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know exactly as what. I feel like whenever they just need to, they always welcome no reach over culture. So I consider this a media platform for the 4-5. I'm just go ahead and stamp that.
Absolutely.
4-5. I might get I'm not getting the tattoo, but I might do that though. So let's get into the music.
Okay.
This is why we're here. Tape. And you wanted to clarify that this is a tape. This is a mixtape.
This is a mixtape, man. This is a mixtape. I told you in the car when we was listening to it.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to stress, like, this is not an album.
Why is that so important?
Because I feel like people can't tell the difference between the two. I feel like a couple of things. I feel like streaming services and the fact that we all have the access to them now. Like, you can all go through a third-party distributor, whether it's DistroKid, TuneCore, Amuse, whatever it is. Like, we have all of these third-party distributors to where you can literally, with this microphone, cut a record, just doing whatever you want to do and put it on the streaming service, and it's there. So I feel like it's confused what the difference between an album and a mixtape is because, for example, Coloring Book was a mixtape. Coloring Book was on all streaming platforms. Beach House 3, mixtape, came out on all streaming platforms. So what makes that any different from a Scorpion or To Pimp a Butterfly?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make it any difference because the way that people consume it is all the same. Yeah. Even with Drake calling More Life a playlist, but like when it went to Cash Money, it was an album that counted towards him getting out of his deal. You know what I'm saying? Nothing was the same. If you're reading this, is too late. It was a mixtape.
That was a mixtape or an album.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was called a mixtape. Like, but over time, I feel like with all the streaming services, people can't really tell the difference. So between that and what people are actually calling their projects, like the fact that he called it a playlist, as dope as that was, it only confused people more because it's like, okay, so this is a playlist and you put it out like this and it sounded like this. And then you put out Nothing Was the Same, and that was an album, and it sounded like this, and you put it out the exact same way. But then you put out, if you're reading this, is too late, and you said that was a mixtape, but you put it out the same way, and it sounded like this. Right. And they all sound the same, they all are presented the same. Right. So over time, I feel like people are now confused, and I feel like the term mixtape and the term album are just kind of like novelty words now. It's like you call it whatever you want, but it's all an album. And I feel like people now consume music all the same way because they feel like all music is created equal, and it's not. Like, I didn't put the same amount of time into this that I'm putting into my album.
My question, yeah.
Like, it's not the same. Like, the intentionality when I get down to recording and mixing and mastering, like, I want to make sure that I'm executing as well as I can. Like, I'm not shortchanging the people because it's a mixtape, but I'm not. Like, I didn't put this together for it to be a conceptual project that made sense and told a story all the way through. Right. If that happens, it happens by mistake because I tell my truth on all of these songs. And if my truth just so happens to go together because I'm a human that lives life and my life makes sense, then it may sound conceptual, but that wasn't the case. Like, I just took a bunch of beats that I liked and I just wrote whatever I felt to those beats. I had no plan for what I wanted the project to sound like. I had no plan for what I wanted each individual song to sound like. I just took a beat and was like, I'm gonna do what I feel like will serve the beat the best justice from me as an artist. Right. And that's what makes it a mixtape.
So after knowing you for a while, knowing that you've always rapped, you've rapped for a long time, this is actually the first official project that you're actually putting out. And what a lot of listeners won't understand is what it actually took you to even get to this point. It took Jay 27 years to put out Reasonable Doubt.
Right.
I mean, it even took Jesus 33 years to start the ministry. When you get into spaces like that, you know, at some point, it may be like a now or never thing. That you feel like you were at that point when making this tape?
I don't know, bro. I don't know if I ever felt like it was a now or never thing. I felt like, honestly, it was more so a now or never thing as the process of releasing it got closer. Yeah. Like, when I was making it, it didn't really feel like a now or never thing, but the closer, like probably around January, like around like late January, I started to feel like, okay, me putting this out now feels like now or never. It's like either I'm going to just drop it or I'm not. And that's, I think, what got to the place of where I'm like, I don't care if it's on any streaming service. I don't care if only the people that hear it are people who already like my music. I don't care about getting no new fans. I don't care about none of that. I just care about...
Let's talk about that, because you get that vibe in the song. So let's get into the song list. Okay, so it's is it officially 10 songs? Is that the official?
9. If you include the bonus track, it's 9 songs. If you want to count Stuffy, which was like a promotional type of single, just like a, hey, the tape is coming.
Now, Stuffy going to be on the joint?
I don't think so.
Okay, Stuffy's not going to be.
But it's already on everywhere. It's already everywhere now. Right. So like Stuffy came out, it's on SoundCloud, but it's on Apple Music, it's on Spotify, it's on Tidal. Like Stuffy is already everywhere. Gotcha. So if you want to, you could create your own playlist on any of those platforms and put it on the album or the tape if you want, but like it's not a part of it.
Got you. Okay. So
it's more like a prelude to the tape.
I can dig it. I think that's becoming like more and more of a thing. People releasing songs that's not actually on the joint. Shout out to Drizzy Drake. I can't remember anybody else before him that was actually like putting out songs. I was never gonna make the album. And Stuffy is cold, by the way.
Thank you.
So just want to get into a few of the songs. Okay. We got the intro. From the intro, from the gate, the main thing I said, it sounds like a mixtape. Yeah, you know. Like so if you don't get the mixtape feel from the intro, you might have a misconception on what hip hop actually is and what it actually sounds like. The intro definitely sounds like a mixtape. Like you dabble a little bit in mental health in that intro, just a little bit. This whole album is a concept of mental health. There's some God in that. It's a lot of different things in that. How do you feel like the church handles mental health? Do you feel like it handles mental health adequately?
I honestly, I don't know. And the only reason I say I don't know is because I don't go to a lot of churches, and I don't watch a ton of like other churches' sermons like on a regular basis to be able to say I feel like the church handles mental health well or not. I can tell you how I feel my church handles mental health, you know what I'm saying? But I couldn't necessarily speak on how the church does it. I can speak on how Christians handle mental health because I do interact with a lot of Christians, and I feel like if we're talking about the church as a body, which is how I like to talk about the church, like when I talk about church, I like to think about it as the body of Christ. I've never really viewed the church as like the four walls and any of that. So I feel like the church as a body of people, I feel like we're getting around to understanding that it's a real thing, that you can pray away, but with process too. Like I feel like the church treats mental health, or has treated mental health, at least in the past for a very long time, as something that you can pray about and God delivers you from, and then that's it. Yeah. And the Bible don't really even talk about it in that way. Like nowhere in the Bible is it like something bad was happening, somebody prayed about it and God fixed it. It was always a faith step. It was always a walk. It was always a journey that somebody had to go through, whether long or short. And I know people with mental health issues who have gotten to a really solid place with their mental health issues, that it happened quicker for them than it happened for maybe somebody like me, or maybe somebody who even took longer than somebody like me, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think the one thing that the church has really had a bad job of doing over the last, few decades when it comes to mental health is that they treat it more like something that isn't real, that people have to deal with and manage and go through. It is, to me, I feel like we're doing a better job at making it a reality. Yes. I feel like we treat a lot of things like that. I feel like there's a lot of issues that people have, a lot of Christians that like, because the only difference between Christians and non-Christians is the faith in God, but like everything else is the same. Like, we live in the same world, and the same issues that would cause somebody that has God to be depressed would cause the person that doesn't have God to be depressed.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, as far as mental health goes, like, I feel like we're doing a better job of actually identifying it as a genuine illness and less of a personality defect.
Got you. So, and that's a big topic that you're touching on in this album, and I can appreciate me becoming aware of my own mental health issues just as early as October. I can definitely, listen to the tape. The tape is, I could have used this 6-7 months ago. I'm not even gonna hold it, you know. So when I'm looking at songs like Problems, you got intros, you got the intro, you got Problems. That also touches on everyday struggle, mental health. You got, and then the tape starts to turn the tide. You got a song called "You Got Me" on there. To a lot of people, that may be that may feel like it's going somewhere where it's not necessarily going. Just for a brief second, can you describe kind of that song, or do you want people to just kind of figure out where it's going without having to explain it to them?
No, I mean, by the time this comes out, people will have heard it for about a week.
Okay.
So, You Got Me, I wrote You Got Me. I definitely wrote it last year. None of these songs, I didn't write any of these songs after September or October of last year. Like, there are verses that I may have tightened up, or like verses that I may have like written, but the concept for each and every song was created before October of last year. Yeah. So when I wrote You Got Me, I was really in a place of where I don't know, I was feeling so lost, bro, but not even lost with my faith in God, even though I was at that point, but like, I was really feeling more so lost in general. Like, I'm such a logical person and a logical thinker, and that's why, like, I have to use my faith and exercise it so often. Like, I have to put myself in situations where I'm believing in God for something at all times, because if I don't, I start to feel like I'm doing it all the time. You know what I'm saying? So like, with You Got Me, I was at a place where not only my faith in God was at an all-time low for me, but where even my faith in myself as a logical person of what I can do for me was like, I was feeling worthless. Like, and I wrote that song, and it was basically a conversation that I was having with God pretty consistently, where I had realized, like, everything that I was feeling, I felt like I wasn't crazy. Like, I felt like, as far as struggling with depression or struggling with anxiety and, you know, my mental health and all of that other kind of stuff, I felt like, okay, I can't just pray this away. Like, I know that these are real emotions. Like, these are real feelings that aren't something that is a personality defect. Like, I have an illness. Like, I am sick. And I just needed somebody to tell me that I wasn't weird or that I wasn't crazy. So I'm talking to God, and I'm like, man, I feel like because the church treats people that think this way or function this way, like there's something wrong with them, and like God can't use them, or like God doesn't even have anything to do with them. So that's why. So
that brings me to like link in bio, right? Until with about 10 minutes left, like we go to link in bio, right? And a huge thing out here in link in bio is the concept of creative depression. So describing what you just described, before we get into the overview of what the actual tape is about, how did you work through that creative depression?
I think I'm still working through it. Okay. Just keep it a buck with you. I don't think I've hit some. I feel like I finally broke through and got to my next level of dealing with it. I feel like I'm past the place now where it paralyzes me into not doing anything. Like before, and for years, like from probably 2012 on to like 2018, like late 2018 too, it would paralyze me. Like the fear of not being good enough, or running out of ideas, or putting out music that people wouldn't like, or people thinking that I was weird for the stuff I was putting out. Like the fear of not being good enough or not being creative enough or not being talented enough or even just running out of it paralyzed me to the point to where it was like, I don't want to make music anymore. Maybe I can't do this for a living, and maybe I can't create for the next 10 years of my life. Now I'm at a place of, I like the challenge of figuring out how to do it. And to me, it really just came from one, you know, and not to be too cliche or even too spiritual with it, but like the truth is realizing, like, for me, all creation comes from God. So as long as I'm tapped in to God and my relationship with God is strong, I feel like I can never run out of enough ideas. So then it puts the control or the power back in my hands. Like, I feel like you give the power to God for him to give it back to you to say, like, what do you want to do with this? Like, I was watching this Stephen Furtick sermon this morning, and he was talking about gratitude. And he said, hold on a second, I really have to look at my phone too, because he said something that was super crazy. He was like, he said, God would not command you to be grateful if gratitude was a feeling, because you cannot command a feeling. He was like, God made this day, this life, and this mind, but it's up to me to what I do with it. It's up to me to how I manage it. He said, how are you managing your miracles? And to me, that was like, okay, so I submit my will and my desires to God for him then to bless me, but it's up to me to figure out how I'm supposed to handle and manage it on a day-to-day basis. So if my creation comes from God, it's like, okay, God, I'm submitting my gift and my creative mind to you. And then he gives to me then the ability to create, but it's up to me to be putting my pen to the sheet every day. It's up to me to be in front of my computer making beats every day. It's up to me to make sure that I'm expanding my creativity and my skill and my ability to create every single day. So how I got through it was realizing that it's not me that comes up with all these ideas as much as it's me that has to put the work in to make sure that I am talented enough of a vessel at any place of my life for God to flow through the way that he wants to flow through me. So like, God could want to make a tape like this, right? Not saying this tape is what level it's at, but at whatever level it's at, like say this tape is a 7, right? You know, if God wants to flow through me at a 7, but my work ethic is at a 3, can I produce that 7? Right. But whose fault is that? Yeah. It's mine. Yeah. So to me, I worked through my creative depression by realizing that, like, I don't have the control over how creative I can be, but because God's ability to create is so endless, seeing how he created the heavens and the earth, then if I have that same ability to be able to create at a high level, it's up to me to make sure I'm doing my part to manage it well. Like, okay, you put the ability inside of me to create at a 10. So my work ethic needs to be at an 11. Because I know that I am not as sufficient or as good at creating as he is. So I have to work extra hard to make sure that I even reach the level that he has for me. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I work through it for me. And I think that that's how anybody can kind of view creation, whether you're a Christian or not. Like, whether you believe in nothing or whether you believe in any of these other gods or whether you believe in the universe or whatever, like, understand that your creation does not come from you. Like, our creation and our inspiration comes from the things that are around us. Like, I'm inspired by listening to the train tracks outside go back and forth every day. I'm inspired by the sounds of birds chirping. I'm inspired by watching how people communicate with each other. Like, I don't write songs all the time just based off my experiences. Like, I take my experiences and I watch other people who are living the same experiences, and then I take that, and that's where my creation comes from. Like, there's songs that I've written that weren't 100% word for word everything that I have dealt with personally, but it's like I can pull from the inspiration from what's going on around me. And that's where creation comes from. So for anybody, whether they're Christian or not, like, you can just realizing that all of your creation, all of your inspiration does not always come from just what you have the ability to do, but from realizing what's going on around you and where it comes from. And when you realize that you don't always have to depend on yourself to be the greatest creator, then the mindset of the pressure that you feel from having to create is lifted, as long as you know that you're waking up every morning and working as hard as you can to be the best version of yourself that day.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty much the streamline of the tape. You know, tape's 9 songs, so it's not that many songs to go over, but the songs all play a purpose. Now, what about 4 minutes? Let's say 3 minutes left for the listeners. All right, for the listeners of Reach Over Culture Podcast, that's still going to be confused on what this overall tape is about. Mm-hmm. From your words, what is this overall tape about?
This whole tape, and I said this to a couple people, that this whole tape is really about love. Like, this is a love tape. Like, this project is all about love. And it's really about whatever type of love you need to have at wherever phase of life you're in. For me, and I think for most people, like, it's about loving yourself is the main thing. Loving the people that you have around you. You don't have to, you know, love everybody on earth right now. Like, that's a huge task to take, you know, at one time. Like, but it's about loving God, loving people, and loving yourself, you know. And I feel like if we can do all 3 of those things, we can make a difference. And that's really what it's all about. And I feel like you hear on the tape the journey from the intro to the outro, and I walk people through, and this happened really by accident, but it's a reflection of the journey that I've gone through in my life over the last maybe 18 to 24 months of my life. Right. You go from feeling conflicted about what you're supposed to do. What am I called to do? What am I chosen for? What is my purpose for being on earth? You know, and we all have a purpose for being on earth, rather you believe in God or not. Like, we're not just bones and skin walking around. Like, we have a purpose to fulfill. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. We're all chosen for something. Right. So feeling conflicted about what am I chosen for, and then the whole tape is about my journey of figuring out what am I chosen for, or at least what I want to say to people. So, like, you go through the conflict of not knowing what I'm here for, realizing that, okay, I need God. Okay, now I need God. Now I need to figure out, like, how can I even love myself enough to love anybody else, let alone loving anybody in a romantic way, loving anybody as a friend, whether it's best friend or just your close inner circle, to even loving a stranger. But if you can't love yourself, how can you love your wife? Yeah. How can you love your boys? Yeah. How can you love random homeless guy at Quick Trip? Yeah. You can't. So the whole thing is basically just dictating and showing my journey of learning how to love. It starts with me learning to love God, then learning to love myself, then learning to love my girl, then learning to love my people, then being able to say, okay, now I want to show people how to love themselves.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And if we can do that, like, I feel like I'm finally starting to learn those things. Now I can show people the real reason why I'm here. Gotcha. And you get a little bit of that on the outro. You get a small piece of
that outro is fire. I'll go ahead and take over. That outro is fire. The outro is probably my favorite track. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I am a man that likes bars. I've never been to prison. That outro fire. Shake my hand. That was your thing. The outro, honestly, man, I'll just let the listeners hear it for themselves. When the tape drop, listen to the outro, because he's pretty much setting the tone and he's telling you what's going to happen before this wave really becomes too big for a lot of people to handle. He's giving y'all a fair warning in the outro, so I just want y'all to pay attention to that. It's all bars, but hopefully it don't go over your head. What's the name of the tape?
The tape is called This Life, Bro. And it's literally This Life, Bro.
This Life, Bro.
And I didn't even name it, honestly. Like, my homie Will named it. Will is actor, comedian, just all around everything. But he came into town. I think this was before Paris had even dropped his project, because I hadn't even been working on the tape for that long, but I started working on the tape last summer. It was supposed to come out last fall, but then I got sick, had to have surgery and all that kind of stuff. But when Will had came down, I had played him the tape, and we was just listening to it, was chilling. It was me, him, P, and my homie Trey. Shout out to Trey. And I played him a couple songs that I liked, and we was just chilling, kind of kicking back. He was like, yo, This Life, Bro. And I was like, yeah, that's the name of the tape. And I like it because it's really you can say it in so many different moods, so many different inflections that would create so many different types of emotions. If I'm like, yo, this life, bro, you can see me, I'm having a good time, I'm enjoying where I'm at, everything is good, but there's been times where I'm like, man, this life, bro, like, everything's not going the way I wanted to, everything's not going the way I planned, I'm really struggling, and this is just the way it is right now, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel like the tape is. Like, the tape is really a bunch of different moods, a bunch of different phases of the last 2 years of my life to show people like, yo, this is life. Like, this is how life goes. And I feel like you start off and it's like, and I think it's intentional too, from just the way that you start off the tape and I end it with this life. Yeah. And then you get to the end and it's like, this life, it's like, yo, I'm finally at the end of, or working my way out of the negative depression and all that kind of stuff, and getting to the point to where it's not that I'm not depressed anymore, because I still, like, this is something that I manage every single day. I manage my depression and my anxiety every single day, but my perspective on it is way different. Whereas it used to keep me down, now it's something that I use to make sure that I stay as strong and as solid as I can be. And the beginning is more deep and dark from this life because I was by myself. And then you start to hear towards the end, I start to pick up people along the journey to make it to where it's like, yeah, this is hard still. Like, this isn't still the most beautiful thing in the world, but it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing in the world because I'm not alone.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And that's really what the tape is about. Like, and I called it that because, like, this is all of our lives. Like, this isn't just my life. Like, this is life. Like, this is how life functions. No matter who you are, what you believe in, or how successful you are, or how poor you are, or whatever it is, like, we all go through these ups and downs, and we're all trying to figure it out. And this whole tape is just about me trying to figure it out.
Gotcha.
So, it's life.
Shout out to my dog MC, man. Thank you for coming through. Reach Over Culture Podcast.
Absolutely.
This is episode 15. We're kicking off season 2 heavily. It's heavily. This is life. February 14th. This is life, 14th. Bro. This is life, bro.
So it's out. It's out now. And, you know, by the time people see this, it'll be on all streaming platforms. So I'm very excited about that. I'm a little disappointed at how everything is shaken out, because in a perfect world, and the perfectionist that I am, I would want it to be on all streaming services at one time. But I think that it's super intentional the way that it's come out this way, because it really is a microcosm of how the tape came together, how life has been. And it's like, you know what, we're making quality art, we're taking chances, and we're just letting things flow organically, the best that we can. I mean, you got to be planned out to some degree, but we're trying to let things flow as organically as they can. And I didn't want to let Valentine's Day come and go without people hearing the message, which is love yourself. So before anybody tries to do anything extra over the top for a shorty, or any of the shorties try to do anything over the top for some dude, I want them to hear at midnight before they wake up and get their roses and all that kind of stuff. Like, make sure you're loving yourself first. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure that before you try to pour all of your love out into somebody else, that you have enough for you, so that when you pour your love out to somebody else, you still got enough left at the end of the night, so that when you wake up Friday morning, you still look in the mirror and have enough love for yourself.
Gotcha.
And that's whether you have a Valentine or not. Like, the whole day is about love. So I didn't want to let Valentine's Day come and go without letting the people know and get the message that this whole tape is about love. So before you love anybody else, make sure you love yourself.
There you have it. Shout out to my guy, MC. Reach Over Culture Podcast, episode 15, season 2. Make sure you get your time. Well, I mean, you probably can't get this one, but make sure you get your time when it come out.
Yo, you
shout out to the 4-5.
You cannot be telling the people that. Yo, shout out to 45. Shout out to Paris Carriz. Shout out to Evan Rowland, aka Canvas. Shout out to Juice. Shout out to Chase Aron. Shout out to JV. We doing a whole lot of things. There's a lot of people we missing, but we gonna shout out to World Culture Music, my homie Steph Simon. Shout out to St. Dom. He got a project on the way. Shout out to the whole town, man. We getting us all out of debt right now. It's town on the sweats. It's town on the chest. We'll put town on the shoes, but for now, we gonna leave a check there. It's a whole lot going on. This is only the beginning. I don't know how many more plugs I got or how much more time we got, but shout out to Reach Over Culture, the homie Rock from 11th grade. You know, we getting it all the way down from the town to the H, to the Bay, to the A, up to New York. It's going everywhere, dog. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you stay tuned for what's happening, man. Prayers, the secret sauce. It's an Apple Watch on the wrist, man. God is true forever.